Well, welcome and good afternoon. My name is Meredith Call, and I am the Director for the Office of Parent and Family Services here at UAB. And I just want to say thank you so very much for joining us today for our presentation on UAB student housing and dining. We've been able to bring together two separate offices from the area of student housing and residence life, as well as a representative from campus dining to talk to you today about today's presentation regarding what it means to be a member of our students, for our students on campus. So there's a few things that I want to discuss before we get our presentation started. First and foremost, we want to make sure that this is a very active and engaging presentation. We know that this is an area that family members have a lot of questions and concerns about. So we want to make sure that you have the ability to ask those questions, because we know that there's just a lot of things that you have a lot of questions about. However, we are going to have each of these offices from campus dining and student housing and residence life to actually share some of their information with you before that we'll start to do questions. So campus dining will go first, then student housing and residence life, and then we will open it up for questions for everyone at the end. During this time, if you're watching us through Zoom, you will put your questions into the Q&A box, which you should find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And then for those of you that are joining us on Facebook Live, if you have questions there, all you need to do is put your questions into the comments section. We are monitoring both Zoom as well as Facebook Live. I do want to say that please be aware and be very careful when you are putting questions out there to not put any type of identifying information in regarding your students. So when you're asking about anything related to your student's meal plan or housing assignments or anything along those lines, please be aware to not put your student's full name, laser ID, email address, anything along those lines, because we really want to make sure that we're maintaining the safety and security and privacy of all of our incoming and current UAB students. So we're very excited for today's presentation. We know that there's a lot of things that are already going to start to flow in. So I'm going to go ahead and invite my two panelists to come online and share a little bit of an introduction of themselves and then their presentations.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha. I am the marketing director for campus dining here at UAB. So I'll be here going through information about dining on campus, meal plans, and things like that, and then give you some resources to get questions answered later.
And good afternoon. My name is Dennis Scott. I serve as the Assistant Director of Student Housing and Residence Life. And so I will be answering all questions to the best of my ability regarding student housing for the upcoming academic year.
Wonderful. We'll let Samantha get started with her presentation about campus dining.
Okay, so Dennis, do I get it up? Can we see it? All right, yes. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go through campus dining one slide at a time. Make sure you jot down any questions so that we can answer those during the Q&A. We are going to talk about the one card, dining locations, accommodations and preferences, technology, currencies, meal plans, of course, online account access, and how to stay connected. So your student's one card gives them free access to home athletic events, as well as access to university recreation, their residence hall, and the libraries. And it serves as their library card. It's also the home to all of their campus currencies, which we will talk about here in a moment. These are our dining locations on campus. We have the Commons, which is our all-you-care-to-eat dining hall. We also have a variety of retail dining options. So you can see those here: Einstein Brothers Bagels, Panera, Full Moon, Main Bowl, 2 different Starbucks, because of course college students need their caffeine, Jamba Juice, Sandella's, Wow Cafe. We also have a food truck, Magic City Eats. You can expect to see that on campus even more in this upcoming year. If you were familiar with us last year, we will be open for lunch most days of the week. We also have 2 campus stores, which are like little convenience stores on campus where you can get essentials, food, and takeaway items at the Grid and the C store. So the C store is located right in the middle of all of the residence halls. So students do have easy access to that are living on campus. What we're really excited about coming in 2021. So as soon as Green Hall is ready, and I'm sure Dennis will talk more about that, but we will be opening Moe's Southwest Grill. and Slice of Life, which is our version of like a Blaze Pizza or a Mod Pizza, if you're familiar with one of those. And then our Einstein Brothers Bagels is moving to a larger space in Green Hall. It'll actually be a corner store, so they'll have a lot more availability and access for students. So let's talk a little bit about accommodations and preferences. We have a few different programs here at UAB for students that need different dietary accommodations. We have Simple Servings, which is our allergen-free dining station, which is located in the Commons. It is a dedicated kitchen that is allergen-free from gluten, milk, eggs, wheat, soy, shellfish, peanuts, and tree nuts. So students with food allergies, that is the safest place to eat on campus because none of those ingredients ever even go into the kitchen. Another option for students that are more mindful, for looking for healthier options, they can look for the Mindful Apple. It's just a little apple. You'll see it right next to our menu items around campus. Specifically in the Commons, we celebrate Mindful Mondays, where most of our items are mindful. And those actually have a very stringent criteria. So the food has to be in satisfying portions with fewer calories, also has to taste great. But then there's things like it has to be low sodium, low cholesterol. There can be no trans fats in any mindful items. So if your student is conscious about what they're eating, make sure to talk to them about the mindful program. Now, if your student has any custom needs, for example, if they have a religious or medical dietary requirement, we do assist with those across campus. We do want you to set up a meeting with our campus executive chef so we can make sure that we're meeting the needs of your student and making sure that we've built a custom program for them. Now, if your student is a vegan or vegetarian or just has any allergens or dietary preferences, I hope that they have already gone online and seen the dietary guide. It's at uab.edu/students/dining/health. It has detailed information about all of the vegetarian and vegan options on campus, as well as how students can most safely dine with allergies. So we do have two apps that we use here in campus dining. So we have Bite by Sodexo. That's where your students can find the Commons on the Green nutrition information and allergen information, as well as the menus each day. So your student can decide maybe what they're going to eat before they even walk into the dining hall. So they can download that in the App Store and Google Play. We also have additional features coming to that app here in the next year, but those are not released yet, so I can't tell you exactly what they are, but they're going to be amazing. We also have Grubhub on campus. It is our pickup and delivery service. It offers pickup and delivery just like you would Grubhub off campus, except for now your students can pay with their campus card for our on-campus locations. So they can use their dining dollars or whatever they may have to purchase it for delivery and pickup. Again, that is available in the App Store and Google Play. So now I'm going to go into the currencies, which is probably the most confusing part of the presentation, and I will go through it pretty slowly. So we have Dragon Cash. This your student can use at any on-campus dining location, so that's anywhere in the map that we saw earlier. It's $225 that is auto-billed to all full-time undergraduate students in both the fall and spring semesters. So it includes if your student is living on campus or off campus, as long as they are a full-time undergraduate student, they will get billed the campus dining fee for Dragon Cash. It is valid for the entire academic year. So it rolls over from fall to spring and spring to summer, but then it's cleared off at the end of the summer session. Like I said, that's billed as a campus dining fee, fall and spring semesters. Your students will have $225 to spend at all on-campus dining locations. So now we're going to get into the meal plan, which consists of meal swipes and dining dollars. The meal swipes can be used at the Commons for all you care to eat meals, or they can be used in the C-store or the grid. Maybe if they don't have time to sit down and have a meal, they can grab an entree, side, and a drink as part of a take-3 meal, and they can also use a meal swipe for that. It's part of the meal plan, and your students can also use guest passes, so they can use up to 15 of their meals per semester on guests. Dining dollars also come with the meal plan. This is supplemental to the Dragon Cash. It can be used at any on-campus dining location, again, anywhere in the map. The amount depends on which plan they choose. It is a part of their meal plan, and these expire on the last day of the semester. So these are valid just for the semester. The last currency that might be on their card is Blazer Bucks. These can be used for dining, printing, laundry, in the bookstore, at vending machines, and at a variety of off-campus locations. The list is far too long for me to go through, but it is online at uab.edu/BlazerBucks. So the full list is there, and that's also how you can add them. These are completely optional dollars that can be added to your student's account. They can be added online at any amount at any time, and they never expire. Additionally, refunds are given for any unused funds after graduation. So just need to fill out a form to request those. So one question I get is, how does my student know which one that they're spending? Because Dragon Cash, Dining Dollars, and Blazer Bucks all spend dollar for dollar. The first account that our registers automatically take from is Dining Dollars. That's because it expires first. So we want to make sure your students use that first. And then we move on to Dragon Cash because that expires every year. So we want to make sure we use that next. And next it would go to Blazer Bucks. So our registers automatically know which funds expire first, so they know which ones that should get used first. So like I said, Blazer Bucks never expires, so that's the last one we take from. These are the meal plans for the upcoming year. So there's the top three, which would be, one of those is required for freshmen living on campus. Any plan is available to students that are commuting. The Dragonfire plans are unlimited. The difference is the Dragonfire 7 has meals every day of the week, and the Dragonfire 5 only has meals Monday through Friday, so 5 days a week. Again, meals are used in the Commons on the Green or for a take-3 meal from the Grid or the C-Store, and Dining Dollars can be used anywhere. And just remember, this is in addition to their $2.25 Dragon Cash. The Green and Gold plan has 9 meals per week in the Commons. I usually don't think that that's enough for freshmen living on campus. So I suggest one of the Dragonfire plans, unless you have different needs. And then $600 in Dining Dollars. That can go very, very fast. If your student is eating at Panera every day, it can go pretty quick. So there's a little bit more peace of mind with the Dragonfire plans. But they all cost the same amount. The one thing different is that you can add MVP, which we'll talk about here in just a second, to the Dragonfire plans. The Gold Block plans and the Dining Dollars plan is only available to commuter students that are freshmen. The Gold Block plans have a certain number of meals per semester, so either 75 or 25. And then the Dining Dollars plan is just Dining Dollars. So if your student is commuting and they're going to want some extra bucks to go to Starbucks or Panera, whatever they may want to go to, that might be a plan to add for them. But I do highly suggest, if your student is commuting, to at least get the Gold Block 25 plan, because then they get into Fried Chicken Thursday every week, plus have a few additional meals for the semester. All right, so now I'm going to get into MVP. So as you'll see here, MVP is an option for students. They can add a MVP to their plan for an additional $100 per semester. It allows students to use up to 1 meal swipe each day for a value of up to $7 at select dining locations. So your student may go into WOW and order whatever this girl just ordered, so chicken tender combo, and it might come to $9, and so they can swipe a meal for $7. They're only responsible for $2 out of their dining dollars. It ends up saving you over $1,000 a year if your student spends it uses it every day. So if your student plans on eating at these retail locations, it would make sense for them. So it's, like I said, $100 per semester. You can add it to either Dragonfire plan, and they can use 1 meal per day for a value of up to $7 at select campus locations. Now, they do have to use it all at once. They can't break it up and use 2 here and 5 here. It all has to be $7. So those locations are WOW Cafe, Sandella's Flatbread Cafe, Jamba Juice, and Magic City Eats Food Truck. And we will have more to come when our new locations open in 2021. So let's just recap the requirements real quick, because I know this is a big question. Dragon Cash is auto-billed in the fall and spring semesters to all full-time undergraduate students, whether they're living on campus or commuting. The meal plan requirement is freshmen living on campus are required to have one of the top 3 meal plans, and they can add MVP to either of those 2, but it's not required. And all the meal plans are available to commuters, but none are required. Blazer Bucks are completely optional to all students. So here's some dates for you. You can get notified when selection opens, but it is already open, so you can text that number and it'll just give you this link. So uab.edu/meal plans. Your students can go online and choose their plan now. If they are required to have a plan, so if they're freshmen living on campus, if they haven't chosen one, we will automatically add one for them. So They won't go hungry if they get to campus and haven't chosen a plan. But I get a big question, when should I choose one? The earlier the better. You can do it now. You can make changes for a little while too. So go ahead and make those selections now, so it's one less thing to worry about later. August 19th will be the first day that students can use their plans. August 31st, which is drop add day, is the last day that they can make changes to their plans. So make sure your classes are sorted out and your meal plan is sorted out, all by drop add day. And then December 11th is the last day for them to use their fall meal plans, which with updates coming, there will be additional changes to these dates. Just keep an eye out. There is online account access. So on BlazerNet, students can select a meal plan, see current account balances, view their transaction history. They can make BlazerBucks deposits, and they can also freeze their account if a card is lost or stolen, which is really nice. It's better than having to deal with cash or anything, because they can always just freeze their card, even if they just misplace it. Guests can make BlazerBucks deposits as well. It's a really nice gift. They just go to uab.edu/BlazerBucks, and they just need the student's Blazer ID, last name, and date of birth. And then they can add those to the students. It's a nice gift instead of trying to send a check and a card and then students trying to figure out how a check works. So it's just a really nice gift for students. This is how you can stay connected to us. You can text UAB Dining to 82257. That will give you updates as far as dining goes. Once we have updates for example, for what we know about when the semester is coming on, what locations will be open, and when. And then we also have our phone number. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at UAB Dining. And then if you need to contact us directly, have any questions about accommodations or anything like that, go ahead and shoot us an email to uabdining@uab.edu. And a lot of your questions can get answered at uab.edu/dining. It's a really nice resource for health, dining locations, hours, and things like that. So make sure that you visit the website and do some investigating, because it's a lot of fun. And Meredith, that's it.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to Dennis and for about UAB student housing and residence life.
Are we good, Meredith? Does it look good?
Yes.
Okay. So again, everyone, my name is Dennis Scott, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Student Housing and Residence Life. And I'll be going over a lot of information as it pertains to student housing and residence life. I will also state that some of the information that I may be given today may be a little bit different from information that you may have heard either during orientation sessions or information on our uab.edu website. And so as you all know, COVID-19 is a very, very, very fluid situation. And so we're constantly changing as we're getting information from our senior leadership. So I just wanted to kind of put that caveat out there. So just as a reminder, hopefully this is nothing new for everyone, but again, all freshmen entering fall 2020 will be required to live on campus for the entire academic year. There are a number of exemptions that your son or daughter may qualify for, and all of those specific exemptions are listed on our website, uab.edu/housing. And so if there are specific things that you may have questions about, I would direct you to our website, as it has a wealth of information regarding the process, the exemption form, and some other specific information that you may have questions about. And if all else fails, I'll give you the email address a little bit later and remind you to email studenthousing@uab.edu, because every student situation or question may be different. So there's not a one size fit all, specifically regarding some of the exemptions. And so because there's a lot of information and I know there's a lot of questions, there will be points in time where I will direct you to our website for more information. So My Housing is our platform that we have for students to do their housing contract. apply for housing, deposits, contracts, all things that kind of are the more admin side of things, specifically in housing. I know there was a few questions about when assignments were going out and all of those things. They're working on getting those assignments kind of fleshed out through our assignments team. And so if you can encourage your student to continue to check their UAB email account, that is the official way that we communicate with students. They'll be getting updates as they are assigned. And so that's something to keep in mind, is that students will need to check their UAB email account. But this is what we call kind of our hub specifically for UAB housing and all things regarding the contracts, assignments, and deposits. So there are 3 residence halls that all incoming first-year students will be assigned to for this upcoming academic year in August. New freshman residence hall, which has a new name officially after much debate. It will be called Gold Hall. And so that's one of the newer residence halls that is already constructed and built. The second is Blazer Hall, and then the third residence hall, which was formerly Res Hall 2020, will be named after much debate, Green Hall. So those are the 3 residence halls that students will be residing in for the fall. And I'll have some more information, particularly regarding Green Hall, towards the end of the presentation that I'll be able to share with you all. So this is the layout. I'm not going to kind of go in depth with it to kind of give you the lay of the land as to what's in each of the residence halls. All of the residence halls have very unique features in them based upon what they come with, amenities and accessories specifically in the room. But I would encourage you to go to uab.edu/housing, and you can literally click on each of the residence halls and it'll list what comes in the room. So that way you know what you need to buy or what you don't need to buy. To make sure that you don't bring, you or your roommate don't bring 5 refrigerators or 2 microwaves in the room. We don't want that to happen because that will break out the circuit in this respective residence halls. But again, this is just a kind of brief overview of what's in the residence hall. And there are also specific measurements, because we know that some parents and students and friends want to have special design headboards that go in their room and other things that kind of go along in their room. And so we provided that information so that way you can be as creative as your heart desires for the upcoming academic year. We also like to say that within the residence halls, they kind of have the bare necessities. For the bed, you're going to want the twin extra long sheets. You're going to want to have that kind of extra slack at the end when you're going out to buy your bedding. And so again, twin extra long, if you want to make a note, that would be really, really important. It will also come with a desk, a dresser, closet space for them to have students to have their clothes and all of the kind of neat things that they want to bring specifically to the residence halls. One thing is what I always get questions about is, do we have to leave everything in the room? Yes, everything that comes in the room stays in the room. We sometimes will have folks that want to bribe our RAs who are great workers, but they have been trained to say, no, everything that comes in the room stays in the room, because we do not have extra storage space if every student wants to get rid of a bed, get rid of a desk, get rid of a dresser, all of those things. So everything that comes in the room stays in the room. And so we really encourage students to be very creative in how they set up their space for the upcoming academic year. This is a list of things to bring. This is not an exhaustive list by any means. It's just a helpful list to think about your shopping needs when you're thinking about what to bring to campus and all of those things. We also are in the process of creating a document to share with parents, students, and family members regarding what you can't bring. The challenge with that is every time we come up with something, there's a new item that is always coming up that students are bringing forth. So past couple of years has been Scentsies. Scentsies are okay. I will go ahead and dispel that. And then also, if you're worrying about air fryers are okay. And so those are the hot ticket button items that we've received a lot of questions this summer. And so as we try to get information and working with our Assistant Director of Facilities and our environmental safety folks, we want to make sure that, again, every appliance that we're saying approved are actually approved, so that way students don't blow up the circuit or the outlet in their room on move-in day. So give us a little bit of time, and so we will have a kind of comprehensive list. But again, this is just something to kind of get you started for the upcoming academic year. And this is on our website, uab.edu/move-in. One of the things that is really, really important that you will hear throughout the summer is students need to check their UAB email account. We are not sending them information at iloveblazers@yahoo or gmail.com. We are sending it to their Blazer ID at uab.edu. So please encourage them to get in the habit of checking that email fairly regularly. We encourage students to kind of have it synced to their phone so that way they can get those notifications real time, because there's going to be a lot of information specifically regarding classes and COVID that's going to be very pertinent for them to be mindful of for the upcoming academic year. One of the things, once we get into selecting and identifying roommates, it's going to be imperative that they contact their roommate. We know that living with a new person is exciting and can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be miserable. And one of the things that we try to do is encourage them to engage in that conversation early, so that way when they move in together, there are no issues. But part of that is encouraging students to be vulnerable and saying, hey, like, I like the room quiet. This is what quiet means. I don't like to sleep with the TV on, all of those things, right? Because conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen. And so we want to give them life skills, how to manage conflict, so that way when they go out in the real world, right, they know how to engage in conflict with each other. And so we have staff that will assist with that, but also whatever that you can encourage your student to do on the front end to engage in that conversation respectfully will be paramount for a great academic year. We do have ResNet, which is our internet service provider through Apogee. And so we know that students are coming to us with a lot of different gadgets and gizmos and Wii's and Apple TVs and stuff like that. And so they can actually have up to 7 devices under each account. So that allows them to have their Apple TV, their Netflix, all of those things to stream on a specific hub as a student residing on campus. And so there's that hub, and then also there's UAB Secure, which is for students that are like in the academic buildings, but residential students have their own internet as well. I am not the representative for parking and transportation services. However, they do have a very, very nice website, uab.edu/parking. Housing and Residence Life does not manage the parking infrastructure regarding how they do assignments and permits. But it is my understanding that I believe permits go on sale, or that application opens up on July 1st. But again, don't quote me on that, but they do have a specific website regarding that. And then there'll be more information specifically regarding move-in day, what that looks like. But typically, if it was more of a traditional move-in period, then we would have students label boxes, so that way we have volunteers moving those items up to the student's room. But we're having some of those conversations now based upon move-in day and what that looks like. That has not been finalized, so I don't want to give any false information at this time. So obviously UAB is downtown Birmingham, and so we are not like some institutions that have the pearly gates that close at midnight. I will go ahead and say this now: we do not have a curfew. We do not have a curfew. We do not have a curfew. So students are free to roam about and move about and go off campus and see friends and all of those things. But because we don't have that curfew, and because we don't have gates that close at midnight, students, we ask them to be very mindful of walking in pairs, walking with other people when they're studying or whatever that may be in the library. But also we are unique because we have housing precinct officers that actually rove around in the residence halls. And so there's a picture there that you can see what they look like, but they are also sworn officers. And so there are times if a student is in violation of policies, procedures, or federal state laws, they will engage in that conversation. One of the things that we are having conversations actually as of recently, given the things that have been going on in the country, are what are our practices regarding community policing, so that way students don't feel this disconnect based upon things that they've seen that have been happening across the country. So we're engaged in that conversation because we don't want it to be this us versus them, but really encouraging the student to, when they do need help, they can feel comfortable going up to ask a question, hey, I've got this going on, I need help, and not having this fear of something that's going to happen. But that is something that we are engaging in as the police chief for the housing precinct, is specifically in housing. And so oftentimes, when we have situations, we really rely on his expert in leadership regarding certain things that happen on campus, but that is something that we are having conversations about specifically in the residence halls. These are some opportunities for students to become involved on campus. So we have the hall staff. There are full-time professionals that live in the residence halls. They are the residence life coordinators. We also have resident assistants. And so that is, we have about 80 or 90 so student staff members that make up our student staff regarding specific trainings that they go through for the work that they do with roommate mediation, homesickness. I'm not sure how to get involved on campus. And so they go through a very rigorous training process regarding that process. We do have peer wellness ambassadors. That is our newer position that we've launched. This is going to the second year. And so we know that mental health numbers across the country are not going down anytime soon. And so what we've done is taken a very innovative approach to hire students to help us be ambassadors of wellness, physical health, physical wellness, mental health wellness, spiritual wellness, nutrition wellness, social wellness. And so they really help us really advocate for students to take care of themselves regarding things that are going on campus. They are not licensed counselors. They just do a lot of supplemental programmatic efforts to encourage students to really take care of themselves. As far as involvement, we have Residence Hall Association, which is the student body elected by the students that represent students that reside on campus. And so very similar to USGA, which is our undergraduate student association, Residence Hall Association is for those students that are really make a voice and have a voice for their specific hall community, hall enhancement projects, and just other concerns that they may have specifically in the residence hall. And then also at the local level, there is hall council. So every building has a hall council, executive board consisting of president, vice secretary, and treasurer that they can run for and really impact change within their community. And so they are student leaders that meet with myself, sometimes the AVP, Patty Martinez, and other directors specifically in the Division of Student Affairs regarding certain things that are happening in the residence halls. There are over 300 clubs and organizations on campus through student involvement and leadership on our platform called Engage. So there is much to do on campus. And I always like to remind parents is that their room is small for a reason so that they don't stay in there. Get out, meet people, talk to people, join clubs and organizations, because those critical relationships and those friendships that they foster are going to be lifelong friends for many, many years to come. Also, something that's really important is academics, right? We know that, a lot of students really want to make sure that they're doing well academically. And so we have a number of study spaces specifically in the residence halls. And we also work with our VMASC, our Vocal Material Academic Success Center, to host tutorings that may look a little bit different given COVID-19, but we're having some of those conversations to support students' academic pursuits, but we do outreach and have academic success chats when students, we get notified when they're not doing well in a class or not maybe going to class. Obviously that's going to look a little bit different in the fall, but we do get notifications, and so we encourage, and it is expectation that students respond. We say, hey, like your professor is stating that you're not really engaged or participatory in class, or they have some concerns. How can we best support you academically to do well in this class? And so we like to really build that relationship up with the students, so that way they're not at the end of the semester trying to go from a D to an A. How do we work towards keeping that A up all during the semester? And then lastly, we have a number of information regarding our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But the best thing to do at this time, as we're kind of working on a limited business model, is emailing us at studenthousing@uab.edu. So I will stop there because I know there are tons of questions.
There are quite a lot of questions that are coming in, and I want to make sure that we give the ample time to answer them. And again, for those of you that are watching us on Zoom, you put your questions into the Q&A box that you'll find at the bottom of the page. If you're joining us through Facebook Live, again, you can share your questions through the comments section. I want to recognize and share the very first question we've been asked several times on multiple platforms, and that is, with the new university reentry plan that was announced last week, and with some clarifications that have come through today, there are rather yesterday, regarding, especially since classes are going to go remote after the start of the Thanksgiving break. Are there plans for any type of adjustments to rates for both housing and dining? And I'm going to allow both of you to speak to your areas.
Sure. So I'll start with dining. We are working on a plan right now, and we will send out an email once we know exactly what that plan is. There will be either a refund or credit issued for any students that don't remain on campus. So no worries. We will make sure that that's taken care of.
I would also say ditto for housing. We're engaging in that conversation based upon the information that came up. And so once that information is confirmed, students should just continue to check their email for whenever that decision is made and finalized.
Perfect. Thank you both very much for that information. I just know that that is obviously coming in quite a lot from both populations for good reason. And I know for family members, make sure again to continue to share with your student, to continue to remember to check their email. We're going to say that 700 times through this presentation. It's always important. It is exceptionally so this year. All right, so Dennis, the questions about when housing assignments will start to roll out for both upperclassmen as well as for our first year students. Can you start to give us any sort of timeline or information there?
Sure. I know that there was an email that was sent out to students recently regarding housing assignments, and I believe the vast majority of those assignments will be going out, or some updated will be coming either, if not the end of this week, next week. And so as assignments is going through the process of assigning students, as we've been kind of idle for a little bit, those assignments should be rolling out within the next week or two, giving our assignments time team to go in and make those assignments based upon preferences, matching, and all of those things. And so that's my understanding, working with our assignments personnel about those particular assignments. And so if they would just give us a little patience now that we know that what the fall semester is going to look like, and then also that we will kind of be at 100% occupancy, that now gives us the green light to kind of move forward with our assignments process. So if they can just be patient, we know they're so excited to come back with us, but give us a little bit of time to go through that process of assigning them, extracting that information from my housing.
Okay, Samantha, there's several questions that are coming in. I'm trying to stay on top of all the questions, and I want to also recognize that because we want to make this as engaging and sharing, but we also want to manage that we are keeping things to that 1 hour time limit. So I want to make this statement clear, if we get to a question, aren't unable to answer a question live during today's presentation, we are collecting all of these questions, and we will be able to respond via email after today's presentation with any unanswered questions. So we're going to try to get through as many of these as we possibly can. There are some questions in there about how utilizing the one card and how that works, and then within the dining facilities, and what happens if a student has lost their one card or goes into the dining facility and doesn't have their one card on them.
Yeah, so for your student security and safety of their accounts, they do have to have their card to utilize their meal plan. They can use cash or credit as well, but it is crucial that your student has that card anyway. It is their identification on campus, and they should have it no matter what. And they should report it lost or stolen immediately if it is lost.
Great, thank you. Dennis, there's some questions that are definitely coming in regarding how we're going to maintain the health and safety of our students with in regards to living in the residence hall. Specifically, what is our capacity going to be for the residence halls, or how will we work to ensure students are maintaining social distancing, or how does that work with roommates? I'm combining multiple questions into one series of questions because I think that they can be answered as a large group.
Right, yeah, and that's what I was doing. I was making a note about kind of COVID response for housing. So yes. One of the things that we are having active discussions about is removing the vast majority of the furnitures, specifically in the lobbies and the lounges on the residence halls, to minimize congregations of multiple people, specifically in the residence halls. Because one of the things we know is that, right, if they see a whole lot of furniture, we assume that a lot of students are going to want to engage in like having social conversations and things of that nature. Something to note is that every student, if my understanding is that every student will have to go through a specific training regarding COVID-19 practices and things of that nature. All faculty and staff, and again, also students will be required to do that. One of the things that also is happening, we've already kind of implemented this cleaning structure or schedule, is that our offices and doors, specifically in the residence halls, are sanitized on a very, very, I would say, aggressive schedule. Because we don't have communal bathrooms, that really minimizes the risk of COVID-19 kind of exposing students. So it's going to be really paramount for students as they have their own bathroom to clean their spaces. There's a number of things that are going to be added to the housing contract as an addendum to regarding COVID-19, so that way students understand, and as a department and as an institution, we're taking every precautionary measure to make sure that things are safe in the residence halls, but also it's the manner and the behavior on behalf of the student to abide by those things. So wearing your mask is going to be one of those things that we are really pushing out in messaging. So it's going to be paramount for students to abide by that, which we know that there are going to be some challenges with that. So regarding COVID-19, you know, we're not even really having and thinking about large scale programs. We're looking at a lot of virtual programs, so that way we don't have to worry about students really congregating in groups of more than 10. So those are some of the things that we're taking and having some conversations specifically about COVID. And it's an evolving kind of conversation that we're having.
Great, thank you. Samantha, similar type question regarding like some of the health and safety precautions that are going to be offered or provided within the dining halls this fall and beyond.
So right now we are just operating out of the Commons, and that's just for the summer. But we have become a takeout only facility. So there is no dine-in at this time. Once we move to a dine-in format, we have already moved out a ton of tables, and we will accommodate social distancing guidelines, as well as we have removed all self-serve stations, and those will remain employee served instead. So what you would normally have seen, a salad bar and things like that, those will no longer be self-serve. We will be serving those. Additionally, we do have a reusable container program. So you might have seen them, green boxes, Commons on the go. That we've stopped for right now, just because we cannot guarantee the sanitation of those coming in, and just like with our employees. So that has halted. We will, and we have already started making social distance efforts at all the locations. So we started mapping out what those will look like, making sure that we can have enough space between guests, and making sure that we have partitions up so that there's no face-to-face contact with cashiers, baristas, and things like that. So we are taking a ton of precautions. It's about a 225-page document right now that we are working through and deciding exactly what's going to work. So for example, there won't be self-serve fountain drinks anymore. We will get those for you, and things like that. So we are taking a lot of precautions, and we also will have a module that students will have to complete before coming onto campus, along with housing. So they will be aware of all these changes before they walk into the dining hall.
Perfect, thank you. Dennis, there's several questions that have come in, again, similar to, again, this was based on the announcements that were made earlier in the past couple of weeks about return to campus and visitors in the residence halls. And what does that mean? Does that mean out of guest residents? Does that mean visitors from other residence halls into the residence halls? If you could provide any clarification there, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so when we say visitors, that means primarily anyone external to UAB, and also friends visiting friends. So if I am a resident in Blazer Hall and I want to go visit Samantha in Green Hall, I wouldn't be able to do that because technically I'm visiting that residence hall. And so again, we are really trying to, as a department, minimize the exposure of COVID-19. So there will be no visitation, internal or external to UAB. Now, obviously, the move-in days and all those things will look a little bit different, but during the academic year, we're definitely having conversations to make sure that students are aware of the practices that we are taking as a department to minimize exposure, to protect our staff that are working the front desk and also students as well. And so that was something that was made recently, and that came out in the kind of re-entry back to campus, is that at least for the fall, there is no visitors at this time.
Thank you so much. New question that's coming in that I want to make sure that we answer when we get this frequently, Samantha, is about if people have multiple, wanting to know if one card in the meal plan options are the only way to pay, or are there multiple different variations of payment are taken?
Yeah, so your student can use their one card and all the currencies that we talked about. So Dragon Cash, Dining Dollars, Blazer Bucks, their meal swipes, they can use all those on the card. But we also typically accept cash or credit, and I think I might have said cash earlier too, but we are moving to a cashless facility because of COVID-19. So your students will be able to still use cards, credit cards and debit cards when they dine with us.
Perfect. New questions that are coming in. I want to make sure that I'm trying to get through all of the questions that are popping through. Dennis, since there are honors students and honors that are living in different residence halls, are there specific honors floors or honors residence halls that our students are living in, or how does that work?
Yes, so regarding honors, so we will have honors in all 3 residence halls as we've done over the past couple of years. One of the things we don't know is the amount of students that are going to be honors. Honors gives us the data and information from students, and then we place them. So it's hard to delineate how many floors because it depends on how many honor students are actually admitted to UAB, and so we use that to inform how many floors. But in the past, it's been at least 3 or 4 floors, if I'm not mistaken, regarding where they're housed for the upcoming academic year. And so kind of in Meredith, not to step on toes a little bit, but this may answer another question regarding move-in. We are having a lot of conversations about move-in day, what that looks like. We know that it won't be the traditional move-in schedule that, you know, everyone kind of comes in to UAB. And so we're having active conversations about what that looks like and looking at a lot of different models, the manner in which we can safely do that without folks getting exposed to COVID-19. And so we're actively engaging in that conversation. We know there's a lot of questions regarding that, but just give us a little bit of time. And once that becomes solidified, we'll be able to share that out with everyone. And I'm assuming also it'll be pushed out through Meredith's office, through the Family Hub regarding all those things once they're finalized. But right now we are, you know, putting a few models together regarding what move-in looks like. But we know it will not be a, hey, everyone come, as it has in the past. So hopefully that answers a lot of those questions, Meredith, as I was trying to look at questions as well.
So there's also, again, several questions. I want to address this one, and hopefully Dennis can help me a little bit on this as well, because there's several that are coming in. I know that there are multiple components of the parking passes going live on July 1st, and families not knowing which residence halls their students are a part of. For our on-campus housing students, if you want a parking pass, they essentially have 2 choices, which is either the 16th Street parking deck or the Zone 7, I want to say is what it is.
Yeah, that's my understanding, yes.
And so for our first-year students, the 16th Street parking deck, which is Zone A, I believe, is the name of what it's called, that is going to be the closest parking area to our first-year residence halls. For our upperclassmen, it's Zone 7. Is this correct, Dennis?
I believe that is correct. And again, I know they've recently went to the whole zoning thing that I get discombobulated, right. But I do know the information is on their parking and transportation website. But I would encourage parents to call before July 1st to seek that clarification, just to make sure that they are clear on the zone and, you know, if they're going to be in a first year residence hall, what they need to do. But the last that I saw, July 1st is when it opens up. So if they have questions prior to have those with parking transportation.
And there is also a webinar that we just did last week on UAB parking and transportation, so that you can watch that both off of our Facebook page as well as off of the Parent Family Services website to get some of that updated information. I just wanted to very quickly address that because I know that was coming in as multiple questions. Again, I know that we're not going to be able to get through all of the questions that are coming in, but Dennis, there are some questions regarding Green Hall and its status.
Yes, we are, if everyone can like cross their fingers, we are hoping that everything will be a go with Green Hall. There have been a lot of late decisions that have been made specifically regarding Green Hall. One of the things, just for some context purposes, I feel like February and March felt like every day it was raining. And so because of that rain, it has put a really big damper on Green Hall specifically. And then COVID-19 happened, and so obviously social distancing. So it's my understanding that they are literally, I feel like, trying to turn water into wine to make this building operational for the fall. But there is, at this point, a 50-50 chance there's potential that it may not be fully operational in the fall. And so again, that's adding to the conversation that we're having, specifically what that looks like based upon housing contract numbers and also based upon assignments as well. And so the goal is to figure out, hopefully in the next week or so, with the contractors and all of those folks that are handling that, to give us an indication, looking at the critical points coming up, if that will be able to be kind of on schedule for the fall, at least half the building open. And so that's the information that we have right now. More information to come. That's the information that I was given from our leadership, is that we're waiting to figure out if certain things are going to be able to be in place. I'm like Samantha, I would love for it to be open because I really want Einsteins to be in the building, so I don't have to go that far. But you know, those are things that we're actively working on. But I do know, I was on campus last week, they're really, really working hard to make sure that it is open. But also, we don't want to open it if it's not going to be fully operational. So that way, new building, new problems, we don't need floods. And so we also are very mindful that we'd rather open it up completely and do it right than rush and then students have a negative experience.
Great, thank you. Samantha, there's some questions that came in about, for some of our students who maybe are international or out of state, anything along those lines, will they have places to go to eat on the weekends?
Yeah, I mean, we're open 7 days a week. The Commons is absolutely open continuously 7 days a week. But we also have retail locations that are open. And it might be a good time to utilize Blazerbucks too, if they'd like to dine off campus, because Birmingham has a great food scene as well. So they can absolutely eat on campus on the weekends.
Perfect. Dennis, there's a lot of questions that are coming in regarding move-in. I know that you mentioned earlier that the move-in process is going to be very different, that there isn't at this point a specific date, because we're going to have to extend that move-in date time frame out some more. And again, we'll be communicating that via email to students as we are finalizing these plans. But the questions that are coming in regarding are whether or not family members will be able to help actually move their student into the residence hall. Will they help be able to take those materials and things along those lines?
My understanding right now, and I just got back from vacation, so I'm knee deep in email, so there may be some movement that has happened, but my understanding is that likely students and parents may be able to drop off items and do a drop and go during a specific time span, and then allow folks to come back to actually kind of set things up specifically in the residence halls. And so one of the things we're trying to figure out is very similar to how we've done in the past with having staggered times for move-in, what that looks like. Obviously, that's going to have to be expanded over weeks, I feel like, given everything that's happening. But right now, I don't have a definitive answer regarding the move-in day kind of logistics. But the last thing that I heard, it was just going to be drop your stuff off and leave to allow the vast majority of people to get their stuff in, not get comfortable setting up the space to get as many people as we can at one time. And so, like I said, likely it'll be a drop and go, and then everyone will kind of have assigned times, as we've done in the past with that move-in day process. And so move-in volunteers likely won't be a thing, just again, to control the spread, flatten the curve. So some of those things that we may be used to that may not be able to happen for this upcoming move-in day experience.
Thank you. Samantha, there's some questions about whether or not there are places on campus where students can go and actually just buy food.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether your students just looking for kind of like grocery style food, we do have the C-stores. It's not going to have the same amount as like your typical grocery store, but we do have, you know, food that your students can take up to their rooms and maybe make in there. But again, it's not a grocery store, but it is a campus store. So it is a little bit smaller, but there is a lot of variety in these stores here on campus. And then additionally, you can also get takeout from anywhere on campus. So you don't necessarily have to sit and eat anywhere.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions coming in regarding some of the potential students that maybe are tied to other programs, whether it's ROTC in Sanford or whether it's other programs that maybe they have early move-in or early requirements where they've got to be on campus or campuses at an earlier time than the August 24th date. Is that something that will be communicated for students, or what do they need to do to communicate to housing about their need for an earlier move-in time?
Sure, that's a great question. I would say first to email us for student housing. Some clubs and organizations and groups are really, really good in letting us know who those students are. Some folks aren't, and so to make sure that we have accurate information, because groups and leadership changes and directives change, to always outreach to us at studenthousing@uab.edu, so that way we can figure out what that is, because there's so many groups that want to do move in outside of the traditional band student athletes. But if you encourage them to email us at student housing, we can then follow up with the contact person to figure out, hey, give me the list of students, so that way we can outreach to that group specifically, or have one person from that group be the kind of contact person and then funneling information. So that way it's one consistent message versus, well, someone told me Tuesday, but really it's Thursday. And so we want to have one concise message. So when all else fails, studenthousing@uab.edu is everyone's best friend.
Thank you. So again, Dennis, I just want you to, there are quite a lot of questions coming in about the placement and selection of rooms or residence halls or anything along those lines. And I know that it's a lot of information we're sharing today. So I just would like for you to take a moment and kind of reiterate what we know as far as that timeline and how that will work for those that maybe met that early February, I want to say 3rd deadline versus now, and then when they'll start to hear responses to those things.
Right. So I know there, like I said, I've been out a few days, but I know there's a recent communication that went out about students that applied like by February 1st or 3rd. They will be getting information this week, is my understanding. So if they've done that, they just need to hang tight and be on the lookout for that email. For those that applied after that deadline, there's kind of the next tier of when those assignments will be rolling out through assignments. And so again, if your son or daughter applied by February, I think it's February 1st, they should be hearing something by the end of this week, is my understanding, working with our assignments team. And then once those assignments are out, then those that applied after that should receive information regarding their assignments based upon what they submitted in the My Housing portal.
My understanding from conversations, and I believe, Samantha, you were in these as well, that those that met the February 3rd deadline, then they would be able to select, that they will get communications about selecting the building that they would be interested in living in. They'd be able to rank the building interest that they're interested in living in. This year, due to the delay, we're not going to be able to allow them to do a full room selection, as far as saying, I want to be in room 32A or things along those lines.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for clarifying that. I've not been on a few of these recently, but yes. So in the past, we've allowed students to say, I want Blazer Hall room 101. So based upon how things have been going on, that will not be able to happen this year. So that is correct. So thanks for bringing that up and reminding me, because that is something that, I guess, old age, I don't know.
Trying to make sure that I'm getting through. I'm going to change this a little bit from the immediate things regarding assignments, but also I just kind of want to bring it back around to, if a student was diagnosed that lives in the residence halls and a student was diagnosed with having COVID-19, what are the plans in place within our residence halls, and potentially even in conjunction with dining, to ensure the health and safety of our students during that time?
I'll start. So we have already identified one residence hall as a kind of quarantine hall based upon some conversations that we've had in the CDC guidance regarding that. And so we've got one residence hall and a few rooms also that have been designated as quarantine spaces, if you will. And so we are working with our professionals on the medical side within student health, and student counseling to kind of give that wraparound service for that student, to make sure that they are not missing a beat given everything that's going on. And so that's going to be one of those things that we are trying to be very nimble and mindful, given the impact that that's going to have on that student's experience here at UAB. But as of right now, we've already identified the space, and I would assume that, you know, working with campus dining, we would work to make sure that the meals would not be a barrier for them. And so we, if we haven't, we'll continue to have those conversations to make sure it's a really good flow of communication and information regarding that as it relates to meals. But I'll let Samantha chime in about dining specifically.
Yeah, for dining, for students that are in quarantine, we will be providing meals for them, obviously, so so that they can be quarantined and still get their food. And that process is being finalized now. So
perfect. Thank you. Dennis, there's some questions about bringing mini fridges and things like that, if those are required or needed in the residence halls.
So it's going to really depend on the residence halls that they're in. So for example, in Gold Hall, there's one that's already in the room. And so I personally wouldn't bring an additional one in there. I do believe in students having their space for snacks. I hear that, but I think one will be ample. And that's where it's going to go to having those conversations about sharing, because we may both like almond milk, but what are the rules on the almond milk in the room, right? Is it okay if I have some? Is it not okay if I have some? So it's going to be very paramount once they get that information to have and engage in those conversations. But I wouldn't say that, for example, if they're in Gold Hall, they won't need that. And so if they go on the hall pages, it lists what each residence hall has. So that way you're not bringing 5 fridges to 5 million TVs and all of those things. Because they're not going to have much space to maneuver and get around. And we're also looking to put some 360 tours of the spaces as well, so that way you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like, specifically in the residence halls. But if you're in Gold Hall, I don't think you need an additional one, personally. You're on mute.
Thank you. I know my apologies there. I know we are starting to close in, or actually starting to go over time. There was a couple of questions still that I wanted to try to get through, just so that we are able to share. Several questions have come through regarding the move out at Thanksgiving. Are students expected to pack up all of their materials and fully move out during that time frame, or what are the expectations during that time when we're stating that students will not be returning back to campus after the Thanksgiving break?
That's a great question. And again, because I've been out of town for a little bit, I have not been engaged in those conversations regarding specifically what that looks like. So I'm not 100% sure of what that's going to look like for those students at the end of November. But it will be very clear based upon once that decision is made, what that means for them, as we're hoping that things will somewhat be in a normal capacity regarding the spring. And so hopefully they'll just, do that, or whatever that may look like. There's going to be a lot of different scenarios that we may explore. So I don't have a definitive answer regarding at the November semester end at this time.
Okay, thank you. I know that there were several questions that were coming in about whether or not masks are included or required for our students, and I just want to reiterate that yes, they are required for our students outside of their personal residence hall rooms, in the classrooms when they're on campus, things along those lines. And then students are required and expected to provide their own masks, that is not something that will be provided to them. So I just want to answer that question overall. And then all students, as they return to campus, as well as all faculty and staff, will have to do a few different things regarding the health and safety to make sure that there's a health and safety check training that we have to go through, and then there is a health and safety check, and I may be using the wrong terminology there, that we all will have to complete every 3 days, I want to say, basically providing all of the health and status and updates on how we are feeling, and if we have any symptoms or anything along those lines, that would immediately flag the system. So the university is implementing that for the beginning for the fall semester, or for any faculty and staff who are returning earlier, it will implement as soon as they start to return. But that is an expectation and requirement of all of our community. So I just want to share that with all family members. So again, I'm trying to go through one last time. I'm going to give each of you kind of quick a minute, because again, we're about 6 minutes over the time of the webinar. What are those last tips or places or location websites or things like that that you think family members really need to stay up to date with and connected to, so that they are getting the most up-to-date information for their students and themselves, et cetera?
I'll go. So I will say first, this will hopefully put folks at ease. I think that UAB is a great place, unfortunately, for this pandemic to be going on right now. The amount of work and efforts and task groups and Zoom meetings and everything has been really, really incredible and inspiring to see how the university has taken a very holistic approach to a re-entry back to UAB. And so the first thing I would say is we have been very transparent in putting out the information in a kind of chronological manner on the uab.edu website. So anything that you or your student may have questions about is listed out there regarding when the updates and announcements come up. So hopefully that should put you at ease, you know, as a family member of a student entering UAB in the fall. I would say secondly, continue to check their UAB email account as information is kind of being pushed out. And then lastly, knowing that because COVID-19 is very fluid, our changes are going to be very fluid as well. So every plan and idea that I come up with, I just scrap it up and just literally have a pile of paper, just because it's a good idea now, but then tomorrow something happens, and then something, you know, kind of segues it or gets off track. So we're going to try and keep up with this. As many institutions, UAB is not exempt. A lot of institutions are trying to figure out a best practice, but right now I feel like there's a lot of different ideas, and trying to implement something for the fall is going to be challenging for everyone in the fall. And I don't know if anyone is going to 100% master it, but I would say parents, if you can encourage your student to follow those regulations and guidelines that are in that training, would really help us out, because we're going to have the things as an institution to make sure that they're safe, but we really need them to do their part, wearing the mask, social distancing, and following those regulations, because without their help, we could have a different situation on our hands.
And then I would just reiterate that we are taking so many precautions for your students. I am pulling up right now just so that it's can sit on the screen and you can see it. Our contact information here. But also just make sure that your students want or acknowledge that they should be getting involved on campus. So socializing while they're dining, not just getting involved in clubs and things like that more formally, but it should also just be, you know, maybe grabbing lunch with someone from their hall that they don't necessarily, you know, see all the time. So there's just a lot of opportunities in dining, more so than just eating on campus, which obviously we love to do. But that will give you, your students, an opportunity to, I'm pulling this up right now, an opportunity to meet people and get comfortable on campus. And if your student ever needs anything from us, they can always ask. They can always ask for a manager who can get in touch with me, whether it's questions about their meal plan, questions about what they can eat on campus. If they, you know, all of a sudden have a food allergy that they didn't know they had before, we can always make adjustments for them, and just let them know that we're here for them. We get that it's the first time away from home. They're going to be responsible for their food all the time. So we are here for them.
Thank you for that. And again, I know that I know many people are saying that you want us to keep going, but there is just a lot of information we want to be able to share. But we are going to be continuing to answer these questions regarding if anything was left that we weren't able to answer at all. We will be able to send you an updated email responding to your question based on the reports that we can pull afterwards. So I want to just say thank you for all of you, for everyone that has attended and joined our presentations today. I think that there was a lot of great questions that came in and a lot of great information we were able to share. I really definitively want to say very much thank you to Dennis and to Samantha about taking the time today to share these updated pieces of information. I know that I want to recognize that this is obviously, this is the term we've all heard 1,000 times at this point, but it's such a fluid and changing and dynamic situation that we are continuing to work within, and we as an institution, and especially within amongst ourselves here, are really committed to ensuring that we are sharing this information with students and family members as soon as we have it available to share. So as communications are being sent out to students, we are communicating that with family members as best as we possibly can, and et cetera, especially to ensure that we're not violating any type of FERPA or other records or requirements, things based on federal laws and protections for your students. But we want you to keep you connected and engaged in the conversations. If you have questions, if you have concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of our offices. That is why we are here. We want to make sure that this is as smooth of a transition as we can possibly make during this time for you all. And then we will continue to keep you informed. We are still continuing to learn and update the process and policies and procedures as a university, as an office, as a program. But we will, as we do that, so we will continue to share that information with everybody. So I just want to say thank you again for participating. We will follow through with any unanswered questions from today. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful and healthy week ahead.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.